Aloha! Hi everyone! So I saw this dashboard somewhere on the internet, this performance dashboard, the one we can see to the right of the screen. It has this fancy looking visuals with speedometer charts, a lot of colorful buttons showing what is happening in terms of the performance that is being reported, and then it has a view of the top agent. So I thought, can this be created in Excel? So that's the challenge I'm working on. I'm going to make an attempt to recreate it in Excel. One thing I'm going to do is to try and add a bit of interactivity because I can't really see. I mean, this view looks static, so I'm going to add a feature that will make the data change based on a certain parameter, time, and I'm going to use time as the parameter. So the first thing I'm doing is to create the visualization layer, if you will, or the output layer. And it's essentially a combination of shapes of different sizes, starting with the squares and rectangles, which form the background of that visual, the one I'm trying to recreate. And then I'm going to add the circles as placeholders for the pictures of the top agents. I'm adding these rounded rectangles as they were the ones that contain the stars and the percentage satisfaction in the original visual. I lost a bit of footage while I was working on this, so you're going to notice that I skip the view. You're going to see just move straight to the already colored visual, which is what I'm talking about here. So it's essentially what I was working on, but I brought in the colors. I tried to bring in the color screen using an eyedropper to make this color scheme as close as possible to the original version. And I've also creating placeholders for the text. I'm using white text for the static text, and then I'm going to use yellow text for the ones that are going to be updated based on the interactivity feature I'm going to bring in. So the text in yellow will change. I'm going to create data that changes by day. So the text in yellow will change when you select a new day. The next thing I'm doing now is to create the data page. I don't know if I mentioned this, but every performance dashboard has a minimum of 3 views: the output view, the data view, and then a middle view, which is the analysis view, where all the data is being transformed into a version that can be visualized in the final dashboard. So because I don't have any data that looks like customer support data, I am creating mock data using the rand between function in Excel. Rand between and choose function. I'm using that to randomize the list of data that I have created, which you can see to the right. I essentially just use the list of agents, status types, and NPS, and then I'm going to bring in data and time as well. And I'm using the combination of choose and run between functions in Excel to randomize that information. And I would create those formulas and drag them down all the way down to 2000 rows. I'm creating 2000 rows of mock data for this dashboard. So for the dates, I use the number value for 1st to 31st of August as the beginning and end, and I randomized it so you can see it's brought in all random sets of dates in August from 1st to 31st of August. That's what you can see there. So my table is all set up, and then I just created filters, and then next thing I'm going to do is create the middle layer, which is calculation layer, and I'm going to use pivot tables to analyze the raw data that I created. The first thing, before I go on to create the pivot tables, I'm trying to create a list of the different pivot table views I think I'm going to need to bring that front end visualization to life. I've created the list, and then I copied and pasted the list as a picture because I want to free up the row and column for the pivot tables, but I still want to be able to refer to that list. So what I'm doing now, I've created one pivot table, and I'm going to copy and paste it as many times as I want to bring to life all the list of analysis I've written in that pasted picture to the left. And what I'm just going to do is step into each pivot table and adjust the rows, columns, and values so that it matches the information I'm looking for. So you can see the first one was tickets by status, the second one tickets by status by type, and on and on and on, and it goes like that. And I'm making those updates to the rows and columns just to um, match the information I'm going to need per that picture I have created there. The reason I'm going with pivot tables is so that I can use a slicer, and with the use of a slicer, I can immediately filter all the pivot tables at once by date. Because you remember I said I wanted to create an interactivity layer to filter information by date. I wanted to go with a timeline, but I didn't like the way it ended up looking. So I changed my mind and I went back to the regular slicer. And to do that, because it's bringing so many data, I had to go back to the original data and convert the date to day. And then, of course, update the column header to day. And then I refresh the pivot tables, and then it's coming as day. And I've set it up so that it even looks like a calendar with 7 columns set up. And I've connected the slicer to all the pivot tables I've set up, and I've brought it into the front end view. I then go on ahead to start connecting the pivot table to the information in front. And it's simply, all I simply do is select the placeholder I created, the text placeholder I created, and then go to the formulas bar, type equal to, and link it to the data at the back end that I want it to show. So I've done that for the ticket by type, and then I'm doing it for the other views. And um, of course, a lot of connection is going on. I'm actually skipping through some of the video on some of them. The next thing I'm doing now is to create the bar charts for that view that was at the bottom left of the original view, that showed total over solved over total by the inquiry status type. And then I'm just updating the color scheme so it matches what was in the original. I'm going to bring this in, still make more updates, remove the background, remove the outline, remove the axis, remove the grid lines. And then you see I'm making a lot of tweaks to it, because at the back end, the gray ends vary and they should all stop at the same point. And then I realized that the total should be 100. So I've gone back to the back end, the middle end, to convert it to a percentage. And as I've done this conversion, it's been updated, and then I'm going to go in to update the axis to ensure that it stops at 100. That way, all the gray bars end at the same point, and they don't change every time the data updates. So I did that update. And the next thing is keep on connecting the information, the numbers information to the text placeholders that have been created. I'm still doing that across board. I'm still doing that across board. And every time you bring in the update from the backend, you see the format of the text changes, but I just change it back to what I'm using, which is Arial 12 white font. Now I'm working on the MPS. I made some assumptions on what makes up detractors, passive, and promoters. That 1 to 4 will be, and then I'm bringing in the information and then I made the summary to match that. What you see now is I'm trying to make the top 3 agents have the color scheme of gold, silver, and bronze, the stars for the top 3 agents. So I went online to look for a sample gold, silver, bronze color scheme, and then I'm using eyedropper to bring that in to update the stars that I created for the top 3 agents. So I'm making those updates using the eyedroppers. It's an old system, so I had to do a roundabout approach by taking it into PowerPoint, changing the color, and then bringing it in. So it was really interesting doing this. Now what I'm trying to do is I initially thought I was going to have to use percentages, so I summarized the pivot as percentage, but I converted it back, as you can see, and then I did a manual workaround using formulas. This backend sheet is really untidy, and that's because I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible. Typically, I would have made it much more tidier than this, but this is just a demonstration video, so I'm not spending too much time on the back end. The front end is where the action is happening, and that's where I'm spending all the prettying time on. So I'm going on to create the top 3 list, and I use the rank to bring in the top 3 based on the information of solved, percentage solved, total percentage solved. I later changed the top 3 to be based on the net performance score, the net promoter score. But I found out in the original was actually based on total sold tickets. But hey, again, this is just a demonstration. So, and then I noticed it wasn't bringing in the zeros. I didn't like that it was bringing in blank because I thought it was going to. I know that if I leave it there, it's going to adjust and affect it. So I had to change that. Now I'm working on the pie chart, and then I the pie charts are those shapes are those speedometers are essentially pie charts, but there's a buffer area, and that buffer area the color is changed to blank. That's why it looks like a circle, an uncompleted circle. So I made that update. It's just adjusting the pie charts, and then for each of the pie charts I'm creating, there's a buffer area, and there's the main coloring area, and I made those updates in the back end. That's what you can see happening for each pie chart. There are for each pie chart we created, there are at least 4 data points. The data point for the buffer, the one for the area before, the core area, and the area after. And then the buffer area is always 20%, and the rest will be spread across 80%. So you can see that the actual data, I divided it by 80, divided by 100, multiplied by 80, so that it would represent an even spread across the 80 points left. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to do this for all the pie charts, so as you will notice. And then for the ticker in the speedometer, it's going to be is a regular. Um, the others were donut charts. This is a regular pie chart, and then you create the buffer area, create the ticker, and all of that. I'm not spending too much time on explanations here because this is supposed to be just a tear down visual video, and I could have more detailed explanations based on demand, detailed videos that show the detailed explanations if there's demand for them. Yes, I order it up, and for each of the updates I'm making, I check them using the slicer to see that they're working. Now to the pictures. I found these pictures on unsplash.com, and I'm using them as the sample pictures, and I'm going to create linked pictures of them. Right now I'm formatting them into circular form, and then I'm adjusting them so that they fit into cells, and then I'm going to name the cells behind them with the mock names that we have. And this setup is so that we can use linked pictures to bring in the pictures of the agents, which are going to change. And we're using linked pictures because these pictures are going to change with the new dates. If an agent is no longer on the top three, it's going to be reflected in the dashboard. So that's why we're using linked pictures to bring it in. And I have a whole setup which I have spoken about in at least 2 other videos on how to make dynamic pictures in MS Excel, so I'm not going to speak through that. But what's different here is that I'm using a mid function to extract the first name, since I named the name ranges after the first names, and then the formula that is bringing out the top 3 agents from the pivot tables has first and last names. So the mid function is going to be used to extract them. So here is the final version. I've brought it into a new system, so the colors look real, they look truer to the type, and then I've updated the background of the slicer so that it matches the color scheme of the dashboard. I've also brought in the name, and then I've hidden the grid lines and hidden the headings so that it looks like an actual dashboard. So that's it, all done. I think I was able to recreate it, well, as close as possible with my own little tweaks to add some level of interactivity. Thanks for watching this video. Like it if you enjoyed it, and let me know what other recreations you would like to see in future videos. Bye.